Round of applause. What's good, America? It's your man, Reggie Florima, a.k.a. Big Flo, together with my host, Oliver Gibson. Together we make the Big Flo No Show. What's up, O?
What's going on, man? Trying to get my dialogue today, trying to get my brain working, so let's get into it.
We got to do that every once in a while, right? You got to get to stretch the muscles of the brain. So, I feel good today. Got my workout in. Got the show coming up right here. It's beautiful, sunny outside. Got a great guest today. Can't wait to you guys to hear this guy's story. So, you ready to go?
Let's go.
Our next guest is a guy that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a few years now. He's a 2013 IU graduate. Was picked up by the Redskins in the 2014 free agency market. But that's really where his story begins. And I'm going to let him tell his story because he can do it better than anyone else. But this guy's been a part of our life now, mentoring my son and training my son. And he's going to tell you kind of how that's come to be. So without further ado, get another round of applause for Kofi Hughes.
Kofi. Hey, Kofi, I got a question, brother.
What's going on?
So one of my good friends is a guy named Bernard Whittington, and he was involved in the IU football program. Know him by chance? Defensive tackle. Don't know? Okay. Just wondering. Okay.
Kofi's a little younger than us, so he doesn't really have the same group of guys that we have.
Yeah, but I just wondered, because Bernard had a younger program a little bit. But, yeah, tell us how you guys started, man. It's real interesting.
Started with training?
Yes.
So I would say that...
Actually, let's take a step back. Okay. I kind of glossed over your football career, right? We talked about the fact that you were at IU, talked about the fact that you were with the Redskins for a brief moment of time. And the reason I said that's where the story begins and kind of how you got into training. Talk to some people about your story. And the reason why I'm putting him out there, Kofi's been very, very forward, so I don't want you guys to think I'm calling him out, but his life has had a journey, right? And he got to where he's at with a purpose and with reason, and some things went on. So talk to us about some of the issues you had in college that carried over to the NFL. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Now, when I say get started, I mean started in football. And take us up.
Got you. Man, I would say that, my sports career and honestly the issues that I had in college, it all started with honestly being biracial and not understanding my identity and not understanding that, I'm not black and I'm not. And as much as my friends were black, it'd be kind of convenient at times for them to let me know, hey, boy, you mix. You know what I'm saying? And so I would just say that football, for me, I never really loved the game. I loved what it gave me. It gave me the satisfaction from my peers. It gave me identity. It made me feel affirmed that on this football field, if I do my thing right, everyone's going to love me. And this is kind of where I fit in at. And so that carried me through college. And honestly, that's I didn't know that I was playing it for those reasons. I had a lot of, nasty things in my heart. You know what I'm saying? When you think that playing ball is who you are and that this football player means so much value, man, I was using it for all the wrong reasons. I wanted women, I wanted money, and I wanted more drugs. I just wanted to get high. And so, I didn't know that. Say what?
You want to be that guy.
Absolutely. And honestly, I was that guy. You know what I'm saying? And that was kind of the curse of it, was that on the surface level, it looked like my whole life was perfect. Team captain, got the girl, scoring the touchdown, starting every game. But when I'm alone, I'm popping pills till I'm so faded I'm almost about to throw up. Right. Cheating on my girl. I'm a liar. It was just nasty. And so
let me ask you this question. I got a buddy, because we always have an argument about this.
You froze.
At you because you were light skinned? Just growing up.
Hey, start back up a little bit. You broke up now. Skype. We got Skype.
Do you believe that people tried you because you were a light skinned brother? Just growing up?
Absolutely. All the time.
Right.
All the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like I said, I've always had, all my best friends have always been black. I've always identified way more with the black community than the white community. But like I said, there'd just be these times sometimes where like they would put you back in your place and let you know, like, hey, you're not black.
Right.
And which was I don't know, that tension was always hard for me because like I thought I'm my
I
brother.
give it to you, right?
Yeah.
So you start trying to gravitate towards what you think should be a black identity and doing the negative stereotypes of the black identity as opposed to just being yourself.
Yeah, it just gets real confusing. And then you throw football into it, and I got to the NFL and I realized because oh, you played in the league, you realize real quickly that's a real corporate job. You know what I'm saying? That's a real life corporate job. And I realized that when I got into that locker room, I was like, oh shoot, I don't belong here. Like I don't like it like that. I don't love it like that. And honestly, I can't work in this environment. I can't work in this place. I knew that day one, but you're trying to keep that identity up. And I'm honestly like, I'm seeing the end on that first day I walked into the Redskins locker room. I'm like, I'm not going to make it, man. I'm not going to make it. I'm mentally not there. I am mentally weak. I'm a fraud. I've been playing for all the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? This junk's just been easy for me, but I just saw the way that guys carry themselves professionally. I'm like, this is about to be over for me. So with that, I kind of started to deal with the identity crisis before football was even over. I considered myself a failure right off the bat.
Why? You're that guy. You're coming out of high school, team cap, all the stuff that you talked about. Why? I mean, it sounds like you're coming through college, you were the man also. Why the defeatist attitude?
Because me not giving any effort had always been good enough. And for the first time in my life, I was going to have to put some work in. And I didn't know what that was like.
Okay.
There's these archetypes that I've read. There's a book called Conscious Coaching and the Art of Coaching from Brett Bartholomew, who's a great strength coach. And I got to learn a lot about my archetype as an athlete. And that is, you're constantly trying to protect your image because honestly, like you're just better than everybody really trying. But there's these areas where like a coach might want you to go against this dude in a drill that you're not very good at. And you're going to try to fade to the back because someone might see, something bad in your armor. But for me, dude, it was as simple as there was a chance that I could fail at this NFL thing. There's a small chance I could fail. And the fact that I could fail, it was like, I'd rather not do it at all because I don't want to fail. And it's a very weak mindset, but honestly, I see it in a lot of athletes when I put two guys up on a cone drill and this kid don't really want that action, but yet he's that dude. And you're like, what's going on? It's like, there's a small chance that other dude might beat him. And for him, it's like
the failure's too risky for him. I can't face up to the fact that I could lose. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my biggest weakness, man. It was just mentally weak, no faith. A lot of drugs in my system, and honestly, believing a lot of lies. For a long time, it just ended me, man.
Okay. So now you're at the Ravens. You're in the inception of the middle of your career, and you're trying to find your own identity. At what point in the NFL did you say, you know what, I'm on here? This is my peer group, and this is where I'm supposed to be?
No, that never happened. I got cut from the Redskins after a few months. Got picked up by the Texans like a day or two later. Same thing happened with the Texans. I mean, I was hanging with the guys. I mean, nobody knew. Once again, I was always putting on a facade. Like nobody knew that internally that I felt this way. Like this was more when I'm in my hotel room crying to my mom at night, like, get me out of here. So we called my agent up and he said, you want to leave? You're going to owe me $25K. I'm going to send a $25K invoice to you immediately. And so it kind of trapped me in because I didn't have the bread to pay. My mom's like, we'll open up loans to get you out of there if that bad. But, bro, I was, like I said, my whole world was coming down. And honestly, I had every opportunity. I tell the kids all the time, it was laid out to play in the league. All I had to do was show up, man. But I was self-sabotaging myself every night.
Do you think that might have had something to do with some element of mental illness, like depression? Because we as African Americans don't really deal with it. But do you think if you'd have got some counseling at that point and talked to somebody, then, maybe your career would have been extended?
Yeah, absolutely. I was severely depressed. I was just doing an interview with the University of Indiana about my story. And, there's times I'm thinking, having suicidal thoughts and whatnot. And it's like, over what? Like, how the heck does someone get to this dark of a place? But between my mother and my father, those were the only two people that I talked to about everything. I mean, they became like my two best friends in this time. And so they kept me afloat long enough to get me back home. But absolutely, I was fully depressed. And it's just kind of weird to talk about because it's like I signed I got 3 opportunities with the NFL in a matter of 3 to 4 months, and most people can't get one. And I was self-sabotaging to get I wanted that dude. We call him the guy, the cut guy. I wanted that guy to come down and get me on all 3 teams. And I was trying to figure out how the heck is he going to come get me quicker because I just want to go home. I want to get high, go curl up in a ball and go sit in my room. I was absolutely mentally depressed.
So you mentioned, you said, I know when we spoke before, and I've heard your story. You mentioned how you felt free when you got cut, and you felt like satisfied, which is crazy. Describe that feeling you had, because there's not many people who played football who would describe that feeling as a freedom.
No, it was definitely a testament to the state that I was in. The fact that I'd get cut and get on that flight and be the happiest dude in the world. I'm texting all my friends, all my old girls. I'm coming back to the city.
Wow.
And you're like, man, it's just sad, bro. It's just sad. But that was how much I was like, I don't want to play football no more. I was playing for, like I said, money, drugs, and women. And I was realizing in my hotel room, spending all this time to myself, these 3 things going to have me dead. And so it's like, if I'm not playing because I love it or because I want to work at it or because I want to be a teammate, what am I doing here? I really need to, come to terms with the fact that I'm just not going to be a ball player like I always thought I was.
Right. And it's funny that you say that because that's the most ass backwards perspective that you think a person would have when it comes to pro athletics. And I often, as I'm looking back at my career, playing pro football allowed me to be a piece of shit as a person for a long time, because you get a pass for everything. You're not going to listen to your mama because you probably paying her bills. You're not going to listen to your boys because, what do you knew? You guys weren't motivated. And as I look back at my life, I got to shake my head and laugh. But it's good that you've come to a point where you realize, man, I was in a bad space for nothing. Especially, when it came to womanizing. I was a big womanizer. Why? I think it was because of low self-esteem. You know what I mean? The better she looks, the more of them I got, the colder I am. And it's just funny how so many guys, I think now because more education, they're realizing, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Thursday and Friday night, I could sit my ass at home. But why don't I do it? Because I feel like I'm missing something. So it's just interesting that other people have those perspectives, but we never want to talk about it.
Right. I'd say that the huge thing was I truly believed in my football career, in my heart of hearts, that because of my performance on the football field, I am better than you. I am greater than you. I am bigger than you. You are beneath me. I walked around like that. And it wasn't always like I'm a, in your face dick about it. But in my heart, I don't wait in lines. I get what I want. It's probably going to be for free. And it's like,
exactly,
all for my performance in a game. I wasn't even in the league, in the game.
Right.
It's baffling.
So fast forward now. So you're out the NFL. At this point, you still kind of have those demons. You haven't come to grips with them. And then you have an opportunity to get into the training world. Talk about that and talk about your transformation day.
Yeah, man. Brandon Marshall reached out to me after I had this catch in college, invited me to train with him for the combine. And so I went with him, and it was called Fit Speed, and we did sports performance work for 11 weeks. But long story short, that was where me and him, we just started to create this very organic relationship. It was really, really cool. I don't know why. We just bonded the first day. I was the first guy there. He invited me to the house. We watched the national championship game, chopped it up, and we kept in touch through my whole league experience. And then he hit me up about a year later and was like, hey, I want you to build a gym for me in Naperville, Illinois. And I'm like, bet, I'm down. He's like, but you're the guy. And so I finished my degree. Sure enough, I move up there. He already has.
What was your degree in?
So I got a general studies degree. I don't know if I'd love to say this on air because people need to start holding accountable the academic advisors at these Division I universities. I was a psych major.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 hours left to have a psych degree. But what has happened to me, and I found out after college, happened to like 12 of my other teammates, is they purposely didn't put us in certain requirement labs that we needed to get these degrees because they would conflict a little bit of overlay with practice schedule in the off season, and not in the season, in the off season. And we didn't know that. So when it came down to that last little bit of school, we found out towards the end that we were graduating that we did not have the requirements to get our true degrees, and we had to go list under general study degrees. And I just want to say that because to this day, it kind of pisses me off. But
right.
So I moved to Naperville. I built this gym with Brandon Marshall. He gets traded right off the bat. That was not the plan. He was supposed to be the face of the gym. It was supposed to be Brandon Marshall Sports Performance Company, big Chicago Bear. He got the whole community. People loved him. But he got traded like before the grand opening, which threw a curveball into everything. And so he said, Kofi, you're the owner. You run this place. You're the face of it. He's like, I don't even want nobody to even know it's mine. So he really empowered me to just go run. Now, the thing is I'd never had a client before. I never built a business before. I had no certifications. I never trained anybody before. I was the most unqualified person, on the earth to be opening up a sports performance company for an NFL athlete. And he knew all of that. But he said, I believe in you. And, that was the first time I really recognized the grace of God in my life, to where like, this is so far beyond me. Like, this is a grace that like, this is favor. Like I'm just so undeserving of, but I knew that that was really the first sign that I saw, kind of starting to see God moving in my life that I can actually say I was conscious of for the first time. But yeah, man, it led up to the grand opening. It was a hit. That night I had a very intimate encounter with God that, radically changed my life, the course of my life forever, in which after that night, I woke up free of all my vices, besides smoking weed, which that just fell off like a year later. I mean, I was blowing a blunt with one of my buddies, and I was like, man, this just tastes good, man. It's like,
Oliver, your microphone is dying. The battery, I think. You're dying. It's terrible.
Yeah, so he was like, bet, that's more for me. And I kid you not, I have never touched it since then. I didn't even try to quit, as well as with the womanizing, the ladies and the pills and the drugs and the Adderall. After having my encounter with God that night, I've never seen any of those substances or things or images since then. And so, man, that really that's really where everything started at.
So at that point, you devote your life to Christ. And at the same time, you're building your practice and training. I know those things go in tandem right now, and you kind of treat it like more of a mentorship. So let's break those things down. First, let's start about the training and your philosophies with training on how you work into it. So why do you feel like you train the youth? Why do you do that?
I train the youth because I believe that I don't believe that kids need to make the same mistakes that their parents made. I don't believe that you have to continue to really, honestly, one of my big things is that if you coach an 8th grade boy as an 8th grader, he will only be as good as the best 8th grader that has already existed, in my opinion. But if I take this 8th grader and I speak to him like a young man, and I speak to him and I raise that bar, that standard, maybe to a sophomore, junior, senior in high school. Or honestly, if I just begin to speak to these young men the way that I would speak to any man, I believe their potential for growth starts to increase versus trying to baby them. And so I feel a strong calling and anointing with the youth, and specifically young men, to raise them up in their identity separate from sports so they're free to play and they don't become a slave to the sport or walking around the way that I used to walk around my campus, believing the lies that I did. And so that's truly why I love nothing more than working with, young men and training them up. Tell people all the time, the easiest part of my job is getting a kid faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Big Reg, you saw that with Lil Reg. I mean, that's the easiest part of my job. But my thing is, can I get you to think differently? Can I get you to look at women differently? Can I get you to think of your platform and your followers differently? Because nowadays with these social media accounts, these kids got so much clout, hype, press. And I ask these boys all the time, what are you using it for?
Yeah.
What, you just trying to go for 500 likes to 1,000 likes? Or are you trying to bring that young man walking around your school with his head down that's getting bullied? You trying to bring him up with you? You trying to see something in him that someone else saw in you? That's really what I'm going for, is trying to get these young high school boys to change what cool looks like.
And before we get into the way you approach the training philosophy, I just want to say for the people out there, my son does go to Kofi, and my son's been going to him for a few years now, and there's been amazing strides physically. But he approaches mentorship in a way that's probably unconventional. Yeah, he's a very strong Christian follower of Christ, and he shares that with the boys. But I don't feel like he pushes it and beats on the boys. So if you're sitting out there and you're not a follower of Christ or something like that, I don't think your son's going to feel left out. But if he is, I feel like it's embraced. One thing I liked about you, Kofi, is when I meet you, you carry yourself well. You're very open about your story. Again, I talked to you about that before the show, not to put you out there. You're very open about all your mistakes that you've made and how you've come to change. And I just think for kids out there today to have a mentor that is, let's say, thanks to people like me, we're making more biracial children out there, and there's a lot more people that are light-skinned out there. A lot of people who are looking at college athletics, a lot of people that, could potentially be talking to women or be tempted by drugs or whatever. And you've done that, and you're not that old of a guy. You're still in your 20s. You're not that old of a guy, and you've gone through it, and now you're following here. So now these guys can see where all those mistakes can get you and bring you here. So I appreciate you as a mentor, and I think that. But I also want to give you an opportunity to talk about your training philosophies, because I think that it's important to some people that maybe aren't looking for that for their kids. Say, I just want my son to get bigger, stronger, faster. And I think that's okay, too, for you.
Yep. In terms of my training philosophies, I'm super, super simple. And my training's gone all over the place. When you're a young trainer, you're looking at, the guy that trains LeBron. And if he gets on a Bosu ball with 1 foot, then best believe we're doing that in my gym too. You know what I'm saying? It was more just trying to mimic what other people are doing versus understanding principles. And so the last 3 years I've been on a search of principles because they don't change. The same laws of motion were intact 500 years ago, and then the same laws of motion now. And so when you start to understand vectors and force, when you start to understand angles and the way to apply force, these are the things that don't change. And so when you understand those very well, you can start to express them in maybe a creative way. But I'm super simple. We are very, very consistent with the little things, very, very consistent with the things that honestly a lot of trainers don't want to do with their clients, because guess what? It doesn't make a lot of money. It's not the thing you're going to see on Instagram. It's not the 37 cones on the floor with 10 mini hurdles, a box jump, a backflip, and a freaking, eat an icy at the end. Like it isn't, any of that hoopla. It's very simple, purposeful movements over time that are starting to retrain movement patterns, starting to retrain the way that these guys are. It's not about picking your knees up high. It's about shin angle. You know what I'm saying? It's not about, trying to just squat the gym. No, it's about glute activation and hip stability, hip knee ankle stability. Mm-hmm. So I'm not perfect. I'm still on this pursuit of understanding principles, but I will say what has worked the best for my athletes. And it's the reason why I've kept the guys that I have. And it's honestly the reason why a lot of frauds have left. A lot of guys that leave me, they're not entertained, but I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to give you an opportunity to play at the next level or dominate at the level that you're at. And so we're going to be doing principle work, foundational work. It ain't going to be pretty, but if you trust me, just ride it out. And, for like a guy like your son, which I thought was a beautiful story. I don't know if you remember this, Big Reg, but you came to me and told me you're not letting him go to no camps that summer,
Right.
because you said that he was too slow at the time.
Yep. He wasn't ready.
You said he wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready. And I'll say this, one thing about your training, I've been through a lot of different trainings. I'm not here to bash anyone's training because he's gotten something from every trainer that he's been, just about every trainer he's been to. And, there's another trainer that we may have on the show once. He did a great job with them. But the one thing you did that I liked better is we came in there in the beginning. It was just my son. You had to take off his shoes. It's like you testing. And you made him, jump down in a box and do this and sprint and show it. And you videotaped it. And you showed him the problems and what was the difference between what he's doing and what it should be looking like. And then you talked about why he couldn't do this and couldn't do that. My son specifically had weak feet and ankles, which he kept twisting his ankles, had a problem. So you started training him barefoot. And you started making him do all these different things. He got stronger so that you said that like his ankle shifted too much. Now, to me, I don't know. I'm a lineman. I just ran as fast as energy I could put through there. I had no form or technique or whatever and just grabbed you when I got there. But watching you break it down, I always thought you approach your training in the beginning like physical therapy, right? All these kids have weaknesses, right? Some kids can't lift it. They have, weak hip flexors. They have, poor flexibility here or poor musculature there, and they're prone to injuries. And I think the way that you approached it was more physical therapy-like, and you were able to drop my son's 40 like 2 to 3 tenths of a second in like 6 or 7 months. I'm not trying to promise that for all your customers, but he ran most people run a slower 40 than they think they can. My son ran a faster 40 than anyone thought he could run when he actually finally got tested. So that's a testament to what you're doing there. But enough about my son, because that's not what we're here to talk about. How do you think, not everyone is going to have the opportunity or the means to send their kid to a person like yourself, be it you or whatever trainer is around the country or wherever you're listening from. Not everybody's going to make it to Naperville and do that. And the fact that you have the mentorship, the fact that you have it, I feel blessed that we have an opportunity to do this. What about the kids that don't have that opportunity? How do you feel like sports has evolved today where the kids that don't have the means are really being left out? There's a statistic that only like 15% of athletes now are first person in their family to go to college, which means the other 85% have some sort of means, right? If you graduate from college, you would assume you're at least not poor, that you've done some different things there. Do you feel like some of these kids are going to get left out because they're not getting the mentorship, they're not getting the high-level training?
I would venture to say that if there's a kid who has the potential to play at the next level, the potential, all three of us could look at 50 kids and we could all agree upon, okay, those two dudes right there, just straight off the eye test. And then if we watch a movie, we could say, okay, these 5 guys got the potential. I believe that any young man who has the potential to play at the next level can find the resources to train with a guy like myself. There are a lot of trainers that I know of that they have room in their gym, not all the time, but sometimes, to train a kid for free. If he really don't have the means, I'm sorry, you got to do what you got to do to serve this young man. And if anybody has something to say about it, they can talk to me about it, because it's like, to your point, I can't let this kid needs to be here. You know what I'm saying? Not every kid needs to be here. This kid needs to be here. And I've taken flack from parents before, and I have no problem about it. I like to explain it to them. This kid does not have the means, and I'm choosing to pour into him and to bring him in. And so I would just, and I'm not the only one. There's a lot of guys that I know it. I know a lot of trainers. They all got their guys. But this is my thing, is that these kids are hungry. These kids are willing. These kids show up every day. These kids help in other ways that the other kids don't. These are the kids that come before the session and help you clean up, set up, wipe everything down. These are the kids that are they find their work elsewhere. They deserve a shot. But I would venture to say that if a kid has the potential and he's hungry enough, he will find. I believe that God will bring that right man or woman trainer into his life that will give him the opportunity to work. And to get that work, and not for free, but for, sweat labor, whatever it is. Yeah, man, I truly believe that, because I see it all. I see it all the time. I talk to trainers all the time.
That's good. Okay. Well, that's a great approach, and I definitely know that you're a charitable guy in that situation. And I hope the kids that are in those areas at least have access to it. We have in Naperville, obviously, we've got a bunch of choices.
Right.
Not every town has those choices, and they can't seek them out to find them. So, what age do you think is a good age? A lot of people are out there, you see them on Facebook, and they're showing their 5-year-old with a squat bar on his back or whatever. What age is a good age to get started in training and weights and plyos and all that kind of stuff? What would you say?
Whew. I would say the best age to start training, not that that means a barbell or anything like that. I would say that the best age to start training would be around like 5th or 6th grade.
Okay.
The training is going to look different. You know what I'm saying? It's not what you've seen the guys doing. It's an opportunity to start to create proper movement very, very early, where these kids are a lot more receptive. One of my mentors calls it laying a track. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just want to build up the train. They just want to build this huge engine. But he says not enough people take their time in laying the track for that engine to run on. And that's kind of what I think of when I talk about, laying proper movement patterns for these kids to then build on top of later on and start to move on. And so I would say 5th or 6th grade is a really awesome age. It's not a bunch of ladder drills. It's not about cutting and change of direction or barbell lifting. It's a lot of isometrics. It's a lot of holding certain positions. It's a lot of really just a lot of isometrics.
Can you be too young? Can you be too young for ladders and isometrics?
I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. I just personally would not take my somewhere from the grades of 1st to 5th, because at that point I don't want him getting. I don't need him with the coach yet. I want him just having fun. I want him playing a sport in every single season.
Mm-hmm.
I want him cross training as much as possible. I think that's something big that we're missing, and it's the reason why we're seeing a lot more injuries in sport. Is that kids are picking one sport too soon. It's becoming football only at 5th grade, when I would more encourage that decision once you get to possibly high school. But kids are kind of getting too specialized. And I think what makes an amazing athlete, and you look at a lot of the greatest athletes that's ever played, there were 3-sport athletes from 1st grade all the way, a lot of them through high school.
Right.
Because that cross training is, honestly, it's better than paying a guy like me when you're young.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's huge of you to say, because there's a money grab out here, because everybody who's got a kindergartner that's a little bit quick or a little bit elusive, they think they're ready for the league, so they want to have them in training. I admit I had my son in training at an earlier age and do things like that. Didn't dump a ton of money into it, but definitely had him exposed, because you got that, as a parent, you have that fear of missing